Yo, what's shaking AC?
That was a quick one.
It was. Boom, 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 boom.
I just get her done. Well, speaking of quick, let's get right into the topic.
Okay.
Ready? Okay. So I was thinking about the amount of conversations we've been having with on roundtables and things lately about franchisee support. And I was thinking about how one of the things that comes up a lot is how to support franchisees when it comes to the financials, profit and loss statements, key performance indicators, or whatever metrics they're tracking. And I was just, I was remembering when I was a franchisee, how it was often, sometimes it could get difficult to take the time to get my bookkeeping done. Like we used a bookkeeper, but you still have to submit things, you have to answer questions. And I was just thinking about how once I started doing that, getting better at it, how much value it brought to me as a franchisee, because I could then use what I use the metrics to, benchmark how I was doing. And just see compared to last year at this time, am I on track? Even compared to last month, what's been going on? Are we up? Are we down? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, listen, before franchising, I was involved in the startup space, and I've spoken to a lot of businesses, had my own that, it wasn't like I had to provide financial statements to a franchisor. I had to do it for the health of my own business. So it took me a while to really kind of understand why that was necessary as a business owner. I knew why it was necessary from an investor standpoint and an analytic person, but from a business owner, it's kind of yeah, okay, I'll get these financial statements done. They're kind of meaningless to me because they have all these fictitious numbers. What is even depreciation? That's not actual a cash entry, and it's on my profit and loss statement, which means my net profit is all skewed. I really only just care about how much cash I have in my bank account so that I can make my rent payment and make my wage payment and all that sort of stuff. These statements are kind of just a pain. They seem like it's something I have to do and I don't get anything out of it. But then I started realizing how important they are. And I started realizing actually from an adverse repercussion standpoint, even before I kind of realized what it was from a KPI standpoint. You know what I mean? I don't know. Do you want me to kind of dig into that or what I was talking about?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the first thing I was told by my accountant was hey, if you don't file your taxes, the government's going to come after you. And don't think that they're just going to stop at your business. Taxes is a real thing, and they're going to come after you personally. In order to file your taxes, you need your financial statements done. So at that point, I was okay, well, I guess I need to do this, The second sort of point was, what about in the future, right? If I need to sell my business or I need to bring on an investor or whatever it is, they're going to do due diligence. And it's not just making sure that I have all of my paperwork from a human resources standpoint in line. They're going to want my numbers. And at that point, I'm going to be scrambling around trying to figure out what this $12.09 expenditure was 15 months ago because I'm not up to date on that, right? Which obviously makes you look disorganized. And even at that point, you can't even figure out a valuation, right? It's almost became kind of like a task list, meaning I need to stay up to date on this because when I need it, and I know that I will need it, then it is going to be a colossal nightmare and it's going to be very expensive to go back to do it. So this is from the adverse standpoint. If I don't have this, what could go wrong? And then I started thinking about, all right, if I don't have this, what am I going to lose in terms of going right? Can I say that?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to summarize. So the two big things that I just heard there, one is that you, for tax perspective, you have to do it. So you can do it right, keep up to date with it, which is a lot more efficient and easier because you're not trying to remember things from a long time ago. And yeah, so keeping up is a lot better. And number two, so number one was the tax. Number two is if you want to sell your business, which everyone should have a plan for that at some point, rather than just, run the business and then walk away from it. That's not fun. You want to have, it's an investment. So in order to sell the business, things need to be up to date. Let's also though talk a little bit about the in the moment value then, which is that you were kind of probably going to go there because you were talking about the adverse effect of not having it. But let's talk about the value if, just going back to say a franchisee when they are up to date with their P&Ls and all their financial statements, and they're submitting them on time to the franchisor, what do they get out of it? Let's talk about that. What does a franchisee get out of? Why would they bother to do that? Because I think as a franchisee, I mean, I've been there. Often you feel like, oh, they want our numbers. They want to check up on us. They just want to micromanage us. But there are some benefits to the franchisee of doing it. Do you want to start with one or two?
No, I think you should start.
Okay, because you can feel my rant coming on here. Yeah. Ranting. Yeah, well, I think one of the big things that I learned over time was that if I submitted my financials in a timely manner, and by the way, some systems have it automated. So if anyone's listening and you have it automated, perfect. But if in some cases it's still require ways of submitting. And so when I did that on time, I would be able to find out, I would have help with my financials. So they might look at them for me. My field coach might look at it and go, oh my gosh, like you're doing great with your marketing spend, but you're way over on labor and you could be saving so much money. Or, maybe they catch something that because they're seeing the whole system, right? So they can compare. They might look and see, okay, like your rent is higher, but that's not something we can do anything about because your market's that way. But what are people in other higher rent areas doing? So like, how are they adjusting to make sure that they're still profitable? So for me, it was realizing that when I submitted, I could get information back from it, not just about like being a good girl and getting it in on time. And so there were a lot of things that came out of that. And then I think also just by doing the submitting of it forced me to get it done and look at it. Like you said, it's really not just about the money in the bank. It's about what's been spent. Like there were times where we were, I think we were profitable in spite of ourselves because we weren't looking at our numbers. But if we had looked at our numbers, we might have actually been able to make more money than we did and pay off more debt. So those are some things in my mind. I don't know if you have anything to add or if you want to piggyback on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're talking about the franchisor being able to use system-wide profit and loss statements in order to pinpoint benefits and shortcomings in various locations so that they can augment the system, the system to make a particular location perform better given the externalities that affect it, right?
Yeah, you had to put that into way more formal words for me. That was fancy. But yeah, the point is they take that information, put it into the hopper, and then can bring it back to you so that you get the value.
Yeah. On like a global basis, right? But also on a macro basis, also on a very micro basis, there's some benefits here too. Now, everyone always talks about KPIs, so if we have your financial statements, we can see where your expenses are going and how you can cut them and, where, which revenue product is better and you should focus on that. But if you're really good at KPIs, there's different ways that you can use them that are very unique. So for example, if you sat down and said, okay, one of my expenses that's going up is marketing. Let me take a look at how that's affecting things, right? And you can benchmark it against your revenue, but it doesn't stop there, because what if marketing has a delayed impact? You run a campaign this month and you don't see the results for 3 more months. So if you have up-to-date financial statements, you're able to see how it affects. Otherwise, you just say, I ran the campaign, I didn't make any money. Maybe it's a terrible campaign, and it'll affect how you do your marketing. And this way, now you can budget your cash flow knowing I'm going to have to spend a lot of money on marketing this month, but I know historically, because I've updated my financial statements, I'm not going to see a return on this investment for another 3 months. You can assess things like your labor leverage, how much labor do I actually have to input into the system in order to achieve these revenue results? And am I not just overspending on labor, but is my labor being inefficient? So it helps you with your human resources, right? Like it's not just monitoring how things change, but it's making adjustments too.
Totally. Yeah. Good points. Hopefully that helps franchisees that are listening understand the value of getting the statements in on time. I sure found it valuable when I did it. So speaking from experience.
Yeah. Ready to wrap it up? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Go.